Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, I'm throwing every guitar manufacturer under the bus on this one. All guitar headstocks can break, so if you have heard stories like Gibson headstocks break but Fenders don't, please call that guy a liar, because I did, because it's true. I've seen the proof myself. Fender guitars, Tellys, Strats, and alike, broken headstocks. Holy cow. Ibanez's, wow. Guilds, LTDs, Takamine, Martin, Taylor. Yeah, I've seen them all. They all get broken headstocks because something goes wrong, obviously, right? Now, a lot of these guitars, too, do get broken in shipping. And to try and make things a little easier, I'm going to kind of categorize this in, I would like to call it a realistic way. Okay, so we're going to say this. If you shop online for a guitar and you're going to have it shipped to your door, okay, I would say of all worldwide orders that take place in this manner, I would probably say approximately about 30 to 35% of those guitars ordered, okay, across all brands, will show up damaged. The rest of them will show up just fine, okay? People who go out and they buy a guitar at a store obviously are going to get a good guitar with absolutely nothing wrong with it. They can take it home and it's just dandy until that one thing happens and the headstock gets broken. Okay? Now, it could be anything, but if you are the kind of person who, like me, shops at stores physically and not online, you should have no problem keeping your gear in one piece if you're going to take care of it. I mean, regardless what you pay, whether it's a cheap guitar or an expensive one, you take care of your stuff, it takes care of you. However, things can happen, right? But in this case, I get to blame every single one of you that are in that boat for your problems with your broken guitars because it's your fault. Whether you did the damage yourself because of an accident. I tripped over my guitar. I bumped into my stand. Okay? I loaned out my guitar to my friend and he said he'd take care of it, but then it came back broken or didn't come back at all. And it's been 3 years and I called him up and I says, can I have my guitar back, by the way? Like, it's been a while. Like, hello? Oh, I'm sorry, I sold it. What? Okay, I've heard these stories, right? And nobody does anything about it. It's their friend. He ain't no friend if he sold your guitar. Let me tell you, he's a fake friend. Okay? And people wonder why I don't keep a lot of friends, okay, around me. Like, people, I'm very picky of who I let around me because I have no use in my life for fake people. And I can usually spot them pretty quickly, okay? Anyhow, so, that being said, I don't lend out my gear, okay? I don't have animals in my house, so, hey. But there was a time we did have cats in the house, and I've always had my own room for my studio, okay? Nobody is allowed in the room. The kids were not allowed in. The animals certainly are not allowed in. The door is locked when I am not in here, and when I am in here, especially if I'm doing a video, the door would be locked. Now, in this case, the house I live in now, I mean, I don't have kids anymore, and, you know, they're grown up, and we don't have animals in this house, so I don't need to lock the door to my studio here. But in the last house I lived in, yes, I certainly did have to lock that door because I had to keep the kids out, I had to keep the animals out, you know, and everybody else from the human race that I didn't want in that room stayed out, okay? Now, I didn't lend out my gear. I never have. I've never in my life ever broken a headstock on a guitar. And in my 46 years of playing guitar, okay, I tell you right now, nothing's ever gotten broken, but I have dropped 2 guitars, and they were actually recently. They're actually within the past year. One of the incidents took place with this very guitar, okay? I leaned it up against a stool on stage at church when we were having practice. Something I shouldn't have done. I knew better. I should have known better. I did, but I don't know what came over me, but for once I just kind of leaned it there. I turned around for a split second. It fell over. Now, no damage got done. It landed like this. So, hey, that kept the headstock really safe, right? But it wasn't much of a drop either because of the amount of an angle I had to put the guitar on to get it to not slide this way, but somehow it slid this way. And I was like, ouch! You know, and I checked it over really good. I checked my tuning. Yeah, I think it was like 1 or 2 strings that were out, and that was it. So it's like bing, bing, bing. Just made sure they're all good. No damage. And I said, that's it. I'm never going to be like that again. I am never, ever going to lean it against another thing again. Okay? because that's asking for trouble. And I see it all the time with guys, they lean their guitars up on amps and I'm giving them heck, right? They lean them against the walls, I give them heck for it because it's not safe. And here I am. I mean, I made my first mistake in my life and I'll admit to it. It'll never happen again though. The other guitar that I dropped actually came off my neck. Now, this was an Affinity Telecaster I had. It's on my channel. I've talked about it before. And what happened was I was leaning over and trying to help a student. And this was before I had Shaler strap locks. So it was about a 2-foot drop, basically. Now, I should have at least had a hand on the neck and it wouldn't have happened, right? Because even if the strap would have let go with it's in my hand, I could have grabbed it quickly, because I would have stiffened up my arm, just natural reflex. I would have been fine. But I let my hands both off the guitar and I leaned over and the strap let go off the pin. Doesn't pay to buy cheap straps. Buy good straps. Usually helps. But since then, every guitar, including that one, ended up with Shaler strap locks. And every guitar since has Shaler strap locks. When I bought my Gibson Les Paul, I wouldn't leave the store until they put a set of Shaler strap locks on that guitar. There was no way I'm taking my chance with an $1,800 guitar, okay? Let alone any more guitars, even if I buy cheap ones. And I bought a few cheap ones for under $200, and they still got Shalers on them. Same as my Epiphone Les Paul Special 2. I paid $80 for that on Marketplace. It's got Shalers on it, okay? So does my Epiphone Les Paul Custom Pro. So does my Gibson. My Fender Telecaster, my new Fender Tele. It's got Shalers on it. There is no way I'm taking a chance ever again in my life. I learned from those two things. The one error was definitely my fault. Now, I've never told anybody, don't lean over with your guitar, obviously, because it's kind of something we just generally don't do. And I've done it many times in the past. I've never had a problem. But in this case, I did it and I had a problem, right? So I learned from that. But it was my fault. It wasn't anybody else's fault but my own, okay, for both incidents, right? One, occurred damage on the telly. No neck damage, no headstock damage, but body damage. The Taylor didn't get any damage. Either way, I am still so much more conscientious now. Like, even putting this thing on a stand, I don't like it being on a stand, but where it's located right now, I know that if I get up, it's safe. Now, generally my guitars hang on the wall for a reason. I have in-floor heating. That will wreck a guitar if your guitar is on a stand, okay? You need to keep the guitars 3 to 4 feet off the surface of in-floor heated floors. If you have baseboards, which a lot of people do not hang any guitars on any walls where there's a baseboard below it, because that will fry your guitar. It's going to dry it out and it's going to shrink the wood, it's going to crack things, it's going to destroy your guitars, okay? If you have forced air heating with, registered ducts that are about, like so big, do not put any guitars within 5 feet of either side of that particular blowing system, and your guitars will be safe on the wall. Now, there is a proper way to hang guitars on the wall. There are proper hooks. There are improper hooks as well. That will be for another video. However, in continuing on, people like to blame Gibson Les Pauls the most for breaking headstocks because, let's face it, it is the hottest selling version of a guitar, which is the Les Paul and the SG in the world, okay, next to Fenders and Tellys. So the 4 most common guitar bodies and brands you will find selling, and copies of those, are Les Paul, SG, Telecaster, and Stratocaster. Those are your 4 top selling guitars on this planet, whether they're the real Fenders and Gibsons, or whether they're Epiphones, or LTD, or Gretches, or whatever brand happens to be attached to it. Now, most of the guitars out there in this world, okay, will all have a back rake system on their headstocks, even on inline 6s, okay? But there are a lot of inline 6s that are designed right after the Tele and the Strat, which would have a 0-degree back rake. However, there's guitars with inline 6s that will have a back rake to them, okay? Jackson does it, among other companies, like several different companies, okay? There's so many brands out there nowadays, it is just mental, and the choices are like, oh my gosh, right? But acoustic guitars, even though they're a lot lighter, and there's not a whole lot of a back rake on this guitar, but there is a back rake nonetheless. And it's still susceptible, even though this thing is so thick in the body that it would basically hover in the air, it's still susceptible to getting broken. Again, that's why I'm throwing everybody under the bus on this one, because it doesn't matter. And the thickness of the headstock and where the truss rod is located in the headstock is not a weak point, okay? I mean, how thick do you want the neck so that it doesn't break? It ain't going to happen. It can break. Even if it was twice as thick as this, there is a way to actually drop that where it will break. So, hey, it's not a design flaw on Gibson's part or anybody else's part. And even Fender themselves, they have truss rods that go through the headstock area. Now, granted, they do make a much smaller hole than what Gibson does, but it's a Gibson design thing, right? They remove a little extra material that wouldn't be removed in a Fender, but on a real Gibson, they use a wrench nut system for the truss rod adjustment. Whatever, everybody has their thing, you know, what they do. And Gibson's not the only one that uses that whole nut with special tool thing either. Other companies have copied that as well, right? But at the same time, you have Allen key systems like this up here. You have acoustics where the truss rod adjustment is here, so you won't have missing material from the headstock here, but does that make it any stronger? Absolutely no, it does not, okay? Now, does the angle or the back rake affect tuning stability? Absolutely no, it does not, whether it's a little bit of a back rake or excessive like Gibson's, okay, or even a little more excessive than that. It doesn't affect tuning stability, okay, because the strings have to sit on top here, but then they also have to go down on an angle to pin them down properly, okay. Either way, there has to be some sort of system. Even Fenders have a system built into them on a zero back rake headstock. Now let me grab my telly here. Now if you look at how a telly is strung up, or a strap, okay, this is 0 degree back rake. Okay, so this is like pretty flat, right? But in the design of the way they make this shaping, this dip and everything, if you look at your strings, they don't sit on a complete flat plane, okay, like straight up, straight across. Yeah, well, they're straight this way, but they do have a slight downward dip to them. They have to have a slight downward dip. It doesn't have to be dramatic, mind you. I mean, it gets more dramatic with having a back rake, but this still has to have it, you know, because it's got to pin them down properly, you know, on the actual slots and just in behind. It has to be pinned down enough that it's not going to cause any issues, right? Like weird pinging sounds or buzzing type of thing that can happen, right? So that's your telly for you. Strats are pretty much about the same design anyway. But either way, any guitar, regardless of back rake or no back rake, regardless of the material that the neck is made out of, or the headstock is made out of, and how that headstock is attached to the neck, even if it's a whole one-piece neck, you think that makes it any stronger? It doesn't. It really honestly doesn't, because it can still be broken, okay? It's just that the lesser the back rake, the harder it is for it to get broken. But it is still going to, and there's so much proof on the internet where people are saying, no, it's just Gibsons that are the problem. Well, no, it's not. It's every single guitar manufacturer. You know, Ibanez, all of them, okay? All of them have these issues in there where, because of the design and the way the design needs to be for their headstock style and everything else, yeah, it can break, okay? So Gibsons are not the bad guitars that people like to say they are. You know, there's only a couple little gripes I have about Gibson guitars. One is they're extremely expensive. They're way more money than what they should be, okay? Number two, they have tuning stability issues on Gibsons, which need a bandage fix of one form or another. Now, the best fix for any Gibson, in my opinion, with a 3-in-3 headstock on it, is actually a string butler, okay? It pulls all the strings straight, but the strings don't have to be perfectly straight here, okay? They don't. So, but the string butler does make the 4 middle strings straight. The high E and low E are already more than straight enough, and I've proved this before on videos where I've bent this G string up, well over 2 steps up, okay? And it still stayed in tune. That's amazing, right? Take the string butler off, you might get up a step, but that's about it with this present design. However, Epiphone, a much cheaper brand of a Gibson product, and I say that because Gibson owns Epiphone. Yes, in case you didn't know, Gibson actually owns Epiphone, and that's why Epiphone's allowed to replicate anything they want of Gibsons, except for, of course, their headstocks. But if you look at the Epiphone headstock, it's narrower. These are all narrower in, much straighter. They don't have to be dead straight. I can bend this up 2 1/4 steps on the G string without any assistance here. It stays in tune. I've done it several times. All right, Epiphones are really solid guitars when it comes to not needing any kind of graphite or nut sauce, they call the stuff, or a string butler. They don't even need robo tuners. Okay, and one of Gibson's fixes was robo tuners, which is so far their best fix for what they've done. Okay, but some other guy did the string butler, which just blows the doors off anything Gibson's done. And a string butler only set you back about $68 Canadian at most, and you can get them, of course, cheaper. Depending where you go, but they're all within a couple of bucks. Either way, the string butler's your best expense there. Now, a string butler, should you have a Taylor guitar with issues, a string butler will not work on a Taylor guitar unless you leave the truss rod cover off, because the truss rod cover's in the way, because the tuning machines for your high and low E are too close to the truss rod cover, which is why you can't use a string butler without removing that cover and leaving it off, and that kind of actually looks ugly. With the Les Paul, it's different. They're further back up the headstock, away from the nut, so the spacing is allowable there, that the string butler is not interfering, so it's fine. But anyways, so I don't like the tuning stability issue, but hey, the string butler fixed my problem on my Les Paul, and I'm fine with that, okay? All guitars will have tuning issues here and there. Some you can bend up high, some you can't. And it's not just about gauge of strings either, whether or not you can get away with a steeper bend with a thicker gauge or thinner gauge, it doesn't matter, okay? It's setting up the guitar properly and being very picky about how it's set up. I work on my own guitars too, and I've been working on my own guitars for over 30 years, doing my own setups. I was taught how to do it, and what I don't know about, I research on the internet to find out the answers if I have a question about something, because I don't know everything about every single guitar out there, okay? But I do know a lot, and I do know quite a lot about everything that I've ever owned, and I've had hundreds of guitars over the years, so I know all those guitars extremely well, all right? And I learn more and more all the time as I keep doing research on guitars, because I also look around to see, is this actually something I might want to think about buying, because I'm still looking at an Ibanez gem, right? And it's kind of like, I'm really not a huge Ibanez fan, but who else is making the gem, and who's doing the better job, Ibanez or some other company? Some people say Ibanez. Well, that's because they're fanboys. I'm not a fanboy. I'm not brand loyal, dependent to anybody, okay? So I just want to pick the best suited guitar for me, for my use, for my opinions, and I don't care what anybody says. Oh, this is really good, you should really buy this. I don't go by that. I go by what I try out for myself. I make my own decisions. I don't rely on other people for this, okay? And therefore I don't ask, hey, are these things actually really any good? I just do my own homework and check out a boatload of videos, and if I think it's worthwhile, I'll take another look and I'll try one out, and if I think they're pretty good, then fine, I might just buy it. If not, I'm not going to buy it. That's just the way I do things. But anyways, guys, take care of your gear. It will take care of you. Don't take care of it. It's going to pay you back in a nasty way. Don't lend your stuff out. Be very mindful where it is at all times, okay? Day or night. Do not leave your gear around your house where people or kids or animals can get at the stuff, okay? Because that's just asking for trouble right there. And again, it would be all on you. It's your bad. That's just the way it is. But also at the same time, try not to buy online unless you absolutely have to. But that's a whole other video, and I'm not going to go through that today. I wanted to keep this video under a half an hour. So I'm going to cut it off here, but if you do have questions or comments, maybe I missed something you might be curious about, feel free to ask, and if I've got an answer, you'll get it rather quickly. If not, I'll have to do some homework myself and get you the answer. unless it's something that's just, you know, outright simple that a simple Google search could fix. Then I'll just say I searched Google, so here you go. You know, just search Google and you can find out all these different links, because I'm not going to go through all of them for anybody. So, and besides, you get different things on different links too, or about the same question, so you might want to look into that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will definitely catch you on the next one. Ciao.